Hello everybody and welcome to my item guide. This is a basic item guide which will help you get to think about what items you should get more correctly. Basically, I'm just here to help you guys know and understand what items do and what and when you should buy specific items for the game. So let's start. So first you want to open your League of Legends client. You want to press this little bag here. It's called collection, and you always want to go to items, right? I'm going to help you guys set up items, right? So here it'll be custom item set. You don't seem to have any custom item sets, right? So all you want to do is create a new item set, right? There you go. Now you can scroll down and you will see every single item in this goddamn game. Every single one. Even the ones that are in limited game modes. Okay. So let's start with starter items. Let's find these are the starter items. Let me just put them down real quick. Actually, let me just do this up. Let's put down this, this, and this. There you go. These are starter items for laning starter items. Okay. Now I'm going to explain to you what all these items do. Okay, so for Doran Shield, you generally want to get this when you think that they're going to play a poke champion against you. So this item is really good because it helps you with your regen. So if you're fighting against Quinn, Brand, Teemo, you might want to get this item because this item helps a lot and reduces physical damage as well as regens health every few seconds, right? So usually buy this if you want to play safer. And Doran's Blade is the sister part of Doran's Shield, is a more aggressive type of item for the early game. Usually get this when you're confident that you can win fights 1v1 against the enemy laner. This is usually the most common item you can get for solo laner because a lot of people generally tend to like this item more for its high health, high damage, and omnivamp for such a cheap item. Third item, which is a call, it's a very farm-oriented item. It gives you the least in stats alone. It doesn't even match the Doran's Blade stats in damage. But what it does is that it gives you a lot of gold every time you kill a minion, and it gives you a massive gold once you complete the small task it has. So it's very income oriented. You only get this if you think that you can survive a lane without Doran's Shield and you think that your CS abilities are great. Now, Dear Goddess is a mana item. What it basically does is it gives you a lot of mana for stacking, right? You have to hit something. You have to hit an enemy minion or an enemy character, and you'll get more mana. You get a max mana boost, right? The reason why this item is very good for mages is because it's one of the only starter items that actually branches out into a bigger item. So this is a component item, while the rest are full items. This is a component item as a starting item, and the rest are component item. The reason why this item is also so good is because most mages who buy this instead of the counterpart Doran's Ring usually play really safe, and that means with only 400 gold, they can buy 2 potions instead of the regular 1. Right? Now, next is Doran's Ring. Doran's Ring doesn't give you a max mana stack, and it gives you very little mana. However, it does give you a mana regen, more health, and more ability power, so that you can do more damage in the early game. Usually, you get this if you don't think that your mage is 100% late game. You buy this on things like Echo, blah blah, right? And that's for the laning starter items. Now let's talk about the support starter items. I'll put support items here. And just name it support starter items. There you go. Now, support starter items. I'm going to go from left to right. The first item is Spell Thief Edge, which is generally the most common AP support item there is. The reason why it's called Spell Thief's Edge is because, you know, it gives you money when you hit another opponent, right? So this support item does not give you money when you hit a minion, when you kill a minion. For every single support item here, the general rule is that whenever you start hitting or last hitting more minions than you're supposed to be, you will get a lot of reduced gold every time you kill a minion, which means you are gold inefficient when it comes to killing minions. So what you want to do with Spell Thief's Edge is it's a mana and ability power item. It gives you ability power, a bit of health, a bit of a mana regen. But the thing that helps with this item the most is that it gives you a lot of money when you're, you know, attacking enemy champions. It also activates the money laundering when you're hitting the enemy tower. So what you want to do is you want to keep poking the enemy tower or the enemy champions, and you want to stay away from minions. This item also does the same, but instead it's an AD version of the Spell Thief's Edge. So only difference between these two is that this one does AD, this one does AP. Now let's talk about the minion killing support items. Now these two items actually requires you to kill minions. However, there is a limit. So every 35 seconds you will get a single charge, and that single charge, if you hit a minion around 50% or 30% lower of their respective minion types, you will instantly kill the minion and give both the gold to you and your ally. So let's say a cannon minion gives you 60 gold, okay? It gives you 60 gold. Now, if you think that it gives 30 gold to your bot laner and it gives 30 gold to you, that's not the case. Instead, it gives 60 gold to your bot laner and 60 gold to you as well. So the difference between these two items is just the same as the other one, right? One is AD, one is AP, basically, but it also has the same rule. If you kill too much minions, if you kill minions outside of your stack, you will receive less gold for each minion you kill, which makes you gold inefficient, which means you never want to do that. You only want to kill minions when you have a charge, right? And for this, you never want to kill minions at all. Okay. Now let's talk about the jungle starting item. Jungle starting item has always been one of the most slept on starter items of the game. Jungle starter items. Oh. Now, jungle starter items. The difference between these two, let me explain what jungle starting item is first, right? A jungle starting item is an item that allows you to gain extra XP, extra gold, and gives you mana regen in the jungle and also for killing jungle camps. If you play jungle without a jungle item and without smite, you will gain significantly less XP and less gold from killing jungle camps. Oh, to put it in perspective, without a jungle item, you have no mana regen, you lose all the mana quick, and 2, you have to kill 2 camps to reach level 2, right? Instead of the single 1 camp for a normal jungler with a jungle item. The difference between these two is that the red one gives you dueling potential. What it does is it makes that the enemy that you mark, which is... Oh, actually before that, let me explain what the jungle items actually, when they actually get to smite people. So after 5 times of using the item, which is automatic, so basically after around like 5-ish camps, right? 5, 10-ish, 5 to 6, 7-ish camps, your jungle item will transform, and then now you can start smiting people. You can start smiting your enemy champions. For the red variant is when you smite them, it makes them take more damage. It also makes them take more true damage, which negates armor. It goes through armor, fully goes through armor. And it also makes them so that they do less damage to you, right? Now, as for the blue smite, it deals a bit of true damage, and instead of giving you more dueling potential, it just slows them, right? 20%. That's about it. Now that we're done talking about starter items, let's move on to the more fun items, right? The items that you all love. So I'm gonna start with the general tank items. So let me just go check. Mythic. There you go. Now Mythic is always the first item you want to buy. It has the most impact. It's the strongest item ever, basically. Now, let's start with tanks. I'll put the tanks down here. Tank items. There you go. That should be all the tank items for your. This is what we call the mythic item, which is basically your core item. And basically, I'm gonna show you what it does from left to right. So, Turbo Camthink. It's basically an item, an active item, which you can use to boost yourself, speed boost yourself, as well as release a shockwave that slows enemy champions around you. So this item is the most balanced resistance item out of all three of the items. But what it basically does is it has an active ability, a passive ability, and it has the most balanced resistance out of all three of the items. It's also cheap, relatively cheap, cheaper than Sunfire Aegis, which means that you can get this a lot faster than the rest. So, when do you want to buy Turbo Camthink? You see, because of all the items, they share the same passive. I'll just explain it now. What it basically does is the more health you have, the more damage you do around you. Right? That's the item makes you do damage around you as long as if we're health, blah blah. So why would you want to get Turbo Camthink over the rest of the items? Turbo Camthink, you want to get it when you need to chase down enemies. You want to get it when you need to slow down enemies. You want to get it when you're fighting against a team comp that has mixed damage. Things that have, a Yasuo, but as well as a Ziggs. Things like a Caitlyn, but also have an Ahri, right? Things that have mixed damage, right? Let's say if the damage to health ratio, damage from AP to AD is 4:1, you get AD resistance, right? But if it's like 3-2 or 2-3, you always want to get Turbo Camthink because it gives you the best of both worlds. So let's go to, and one more thing. The Mythic passive gives you 5 ability haste, which basically you get this item also if you feel like you really want more cooldown reduction. It helps a lot of high CDR tanks. The next item is Sunfire Aegis. Sunfire Aegis is a very beefy item, right? It's not the most, how to say this? It's not the most balanced. It does have more armor and more magic resist than Turbo Camthink, but for 400 extra gold and no other utility, this is a very stat check item, right? It does give you a stronger burn, which is the passive ability that all the 3 tank items have. It does have more damage for your burn effect. However, you're not getting any other utility, so you usually want to get this if you're playing stat check champions, right? Playing like Mundo, things like Warwick, those stuff, right? It gives you a lot more health, a lot more armor, magic resist, ability haste, and the mythic item passive, the other passive, it also gives you extra tenacity and slow resist the more items you buy. So basically, you want to get this item if you want to stat check, and if you want to be an annoying piece of shit. You wanna get out of CC quickly, right? You want to take all the damage but be able to move around at the same time. You get this item. Now we talk about the last tank item, which is Frostfire Gauntlet. This item has the same kind of stats as Turbo Camthink, also costs the same. The difference is instead of its active ability being to speed boost you as well as do an area of effect slow to enemies, this one actually has two passive effects. First is, of course, the burning damage for every tank item, every mythic tank item we have. And finally, the last one is that every time you hit something, every few seconds you hit something, it creates a slow field around the enemy that you hit. So it doesn't give you speed boost, but it does give a very nice, though kind of small range. It still increases the more health you have. The range increases the more health you have, but basically it creates a nice slow field. So you usually want to get this when you want to be beefy, as well as providing some utility, but you're not sure if you need any more movement speed, but instead you feel like you really need a lot more CC in terms of passive CC, because while this does slow them for much longer and does slow them a lot more, there's an active item with a cooldown, while this has a very low cooldown because it's two passives instead of an active. Okay, now let's talk about mage items. Mage. Fuck me, this is a very long video. Let's get all the mage items here. There's so many mage items, honestly. It's honestly insane how many mage items there are in this game. So many mage mythics. There's so many mage mythics. Go. Okay, those are all the mage items. Okay, so I'm gonna just go through this quickly, okay? You buy this item if you want extra health, extra mana, extra ability haste, and it doesn't give you the most damage, but it does give you a utility. It's an active item that slows and even roots people in the middle. This item is the item where you want to get if you want to do damage as well as be safer. So what it does is basically, as long as you are not hit, you deal more damage, right? There's a cooldown where if you don't get hit, you deal more damage. If you get hit, the cooldown goes down, you lose that damage boost. You're gonna have to wait for a while for the damage boost to come back. This item is generally for when you want to do damage, but you're not sure if you can kite perfectly, if you can do the fights as well as how pros do it. So basically, it does good damage, but it does not do the best damage in the game. It gives you a bit of survivability. It's one of the best items for its flexibility. The Proto Belt is a item that gives you extra health, extra movement speed, but what really shines for this Proto Belt is the magic pen, as well as the active item, which dashes you a short distance and deals ability power damage. You usually want to get this when you're playing assassin, AP assassins, things like Echo, Evelyn, things like that. And you might even want to get this if you're playing Rise, though usually Rise always plays with this for utility. The next is the Riftmaker. It's a mix of fighter mage item, which basically gives you Omnivamp, ability haste, and a lot of health. It's very good for beefy mage fighters, things like Akali, Mordekaiser, blah blah blah, right? It also deals bonus damage for like the longer you fight, so this is a very fighter item, right? And then a Night Harvester. It's a assassin item for mage. Basically, this just does a ton of damage. It gives you movement speed and a lot of ability power, and it has a passive which every 40 seconds, you attack a champion, it deals a lot more damage and it gives you a movement speed boost. And then for Leandries, it's basically a tank killer item for mages. It gives you a lot of mana, a lot of ability power, but it deals a lot of this is a passive item. It deals a lot of maximum health damage and gives you more damage over time. So it's very good for killing tanks, especially if you're behind. This is what I like to call the Pasrah item, because this is so gold efficient when you're behind. It deals so much damage, it gives you so much shit for the price it gives. It just gives you so much impact on the game if you're behind. And it does also a lot even if you're ahead. Okay. And then the Ludent Tempest is also an assassin item. It gives a bit more damage and a bit more magic penetration than the previous assassin item, the Night Harvester. but it does not give you a speed boost. So I guess generally if you want to run away more, get a Night Harvester. If you want to deal more damage, because it has a lower cooldown too, rather than 40 seconds, it has a very low cooldown. You want to get the Luna Sempes in case you want to do full damage. Now let's talk about the fighter items. Fuck me. These are the fighter items. Well, left and right, left and right. The Gore Drinker is a lifesteal oriented fighter item. It gives you damage, health, and of course lifesteal. Its main purpose is to make sure that you're alive, and it has an active item that basically hits everyone around them and heals you a lot. The second item is a Stride Breaker. It's sort of the counterpart to a Gore Drinker. It gives slightly more efficient stats to the Gore Drinker. However, it has a slash that has the same purpose, except that it does not heal you. It only deals damage and slows the enemies around you. Right? That's a Stride Breaker. And then Divine Sunder. Divine Sunder is a very good item when you're playing back to forth, because it does give good stats. However, the main point of Divine Sunderer is that every time you use an ability, it does more damage. So, let's say you use an ability, your next auto attack will do a lot more damage. And that's why a lot of fighters like Nasus and Jax use this item. Next is the Trinity Force, which is a very well-rounded item. It gives you a passive as well as like Divine Sunderer. However, this passive just gives you, the same passive as Divine Sunderer, but the stats are more well-rounded rather than Divine Sunderer. Eclipse is sort of a fighter assassin item. It gives you a lot more damage, and it gives you a lot of armor pen, and it gives you a lot of the lifesteal that you need for a fighter. But the best thing about this item is its passive, which gives you more damage and a bit of a shield every time you attack a champion for every few seconds, So you're playing with shield and lifesteal here, but you're not getting any extra health. So you might get bursted down easily if you don't buy another tank item. Now let's talk about the 80 items. There are 3 80 items in this game, the 2 mythic items. They all generally have around the same stats, except that they generally have around the same stats, but I'll just explain it later. So first is the Gale Force. The main price of this item is that it's an item active, which basically dashes you to a position and deals damage. As an active cooldown, 90 seconds cooldown. It does probably give you a lot of movement speed as well. So if you want to run away, you think like you already do enough damage without another item, you buy this item. Kraken Slayer. Kraken Slayer is honestly the best motherfucking item on Jesus God. If you're good with ADC, always buy this item. I mean, unless you're playing things like Ezreal or Zeri, where it's like gimmick champions, right? Where it's like not an auto attack champion, not a traditional ADC. But if you're playing a traditional ADC, always buy Kraken Slayer. It gives you the most damage, most attack speed, most critical strike. It also kills tanks. It also gives more attack speed. Basically, this is everything a traditional ADC needs to focus on. It can kill squishies. It can kill tanks. However, it does not have any built-in lifesteal. Does not have any utility. So it's pure damage, right? So you're gonna have to rely on utility on your own abilities or your own skill. The last item is the Immortal Shield Bow, right? So the Immortal Shield Bow basically is a lifesteal oriented AD item. So the best part about the Immortal Shield Bow is not only does it give you lifesteal, if you take a lot of damage and you're low, it will automatically give you a shield, and you gain attack damage. Basically, it's an item that helps you when you're low. That's it. That's about it. Finally, let's go to our last class for the mythic items, which is support. I think I'm dropping it after this, bro. I'm too tired. I want to play a game too. Let's put all the support items in. Okay. First support item, It's a healing support item. If you're a healer, buy this item. Next support item, it's a speed boosting item. It basically gives you a lot of ability haste, and it speeds up your allies with an active cooldown. Next item, Even Shroud. Basically, this item is good if you're a tank that deals CC, right? So it's a tank that basically makes the enemies take more damage if they get CC'd. The next item is Lock of the Iron Solari. It's the same as this Moonstone Reviewer, instead of healing, it's actually a shielding item. The last one is Imperial Mandate. It's a stat boosting item, a support item, but in terms of damage instead of speed boosting. Okay, that's about it. Thank you.